That was the last time I worked for someone. I was like, this is not how I'm trying to live my life. I saw entrepreneurship as an opportunity to create my own schedule and to make money on my own terms.
Who told you to do a book launch on your birthday, get a billboard in Times Square?
I've been pouring into everyone else, staff, my family, and sometimes I haven't always poured in enough to myself. So for this birthday, I was like, I am just doing all the things that make me happy. And when it came to the book launch, I was like, wait, I think we can schedule this to release on my birthday. And I worked really hard to make it happen. And then the billboard in New York is my favorite city. If you read the book, you'll see that a large part of my young adult life was spent in New York. I wanted to open up more locations and not have to use my own money. I was sick of hiring all the staff. I was sick of being responsible and liable for everything. And I wanted to expand. So it's like, how can I expand without exhausting all my resources, my time, and my energy? And that's why franchising is the way.
Hey, welcome back to BSN BookShelf. If we haven't met yet, my name is Brian Oles, president and founder here at Black Speakers Network. This is an interview series where we spotlight authors, leaders, and creators who are shaping conversations through the power of the written word. Today's guest, Kika Wise, she actually turned $500 and a vision into a nationally recognized wellness brand. 14 locations across the country. Did I get that right? 14
Yes.
and growing, I'm sure.
Yes.
She became one of the first Black women in American history to create and legally structure a national franchise. And now she has helped over 30 plus businesses do the same thing. Why is she here today? She is on the kickoff of a global book tour with her brand new book, The Stretch, which is a raw, and I mean, read the comments. It is a raw, unfiltered truth about what it actually costs to build something in this world. So Kika Wise, welcome to BSN BookShelf. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well.
Yeah, thank you for being here. My first question for you, who told you to do a book launch on your birthday, get a billboard in in Times Square? Like who told you to do this?
Well, it's funny because this birthday was very different for me because this whole year is very different. I've been pouring into everyone else. I've been pouring into, my staff, my family, and sometimes I haven't always poured in enough to myself. So for this birthday, I was like, I am just doing all the things that make me happy. And so when it came to the book launch, I was like, wait, I think we can schedule this to release on my birthday. And I worked really hard to make it happen. And then the billboard in New York is my favorite city. If you read the book, you'll see that a large part of my young adult life was spent in New York. And I used to walk through Times Square. People were reminding me about this. I almost forgot. They were like, Kika, you always wanted to be on a billboard in Times Square. And it hit me on my birthday. Wow, it's really happening. So, now I don't know what to do for my next birthday because
It's probably going to be international. I feel like
yes.
it's going to be
Yes,
something
it's gonna have
outside
to
the
be. It's
country.
gonna have to be. Yes.
Congratulations. 12 years in the making, I believe is what you said. Can you take us a little bit behind the scenes? So first of all, congratulations on the book launch. I do think that there's so much to dive into here. There are so many people listening right now that are in the process of writing a book or authors who have now written a few books. But one of the things that have been really, really impressive to me is the launch and the marketing and the strategy behind it. And so I know writing a book isn't easy, but selling a book is also not easy. I would imagine it's also harder. And so the strategy going into it is really difficult. Can you just walk us through kind of what the beginning of this process was like for you all those years ago, and kind of what, like, how, like how do you go from this idea to now you have something birthed out into the world?
As far as my brand, right?
As far as your
So,
brand, yeah.
and the book.
And the book, yep.
So I've always wanted to write a book. So if you read the book, there are about 5,000 obstacles that I had to overcome. And at each of those points, I said to myself, I should write a book. But the story was never at the point where I could say it all worked out well. So every obstacle, I was like, this is going to be a really good book. Like, this will really inspire people. But it was just never time to publicize it. So the journey of creating something from scratch was, it's always been very easy for me to create things and bring them to life and just figure it out. So that was easy. But what makes it a little bit hard are the obstacles that you faced. And so I noticed a lot of people, they're on social media, they talk about the success, you see the diamonds, you see the cars, but it's like, what did it really take you to get there? Because you have people out here thinking that something's wrong with them because the daily things they face are not, you're not expressing that you face the same things. So I always wanted to be very authentic, very open, and just people see Kika, oh, she did this, she did that. But it's like, but do you know what I had to overcome in order to do it? That's very important. And so when it came to the launch, if you read the book, there was a big, horrible thing that most people would not be able to overcome, have the strength to overcome. And I actually overcame it. So literally the week I overcame it, I said, I'm ready for the book. Now I can talk about the book because it's like I overcame one of the biggest, hardest obstacles an entrepreneur could face. So that's when I said, all right, I'm going to launch it. And when it came to, how am I going to promote it? I was kind of leading up to it. Like my birthday, I'm going to announce something. And so then on my birthday, I'm like, now I'm going to open up and share how you can overcome obstacles, build your own brand, and what it really takes. And so, just from an authentic point of view, and people started reading it and leaving crazy, amazing reviews. And that just helped more people to say, huh, because the last thing I wanted to do was write a book that was just like, oh, I wrote a book. I wanted to write a book that would be impactful for a very long time. And so I'm happy that it's making waves like that.
Yeah, you didn't write it to check a box on a vanity metric. You wrote this is an extension of yourself, and I'm so glad that you did it. One of the things that and by the way, I've started reading the book too. I'm a slow reader, but I've gotten a couple chapters down, and I'm trying to do no spoilers on this interview. But definitely, check out the link in the comments. I'll make sure folks have that. But your writing style to me is it's very emotional, and it's very, like, you can feel it. So one of my favorite chapters, I think, is chapter 2, where you wrote about your mom. And even in the beginning, as that chapter started, it's like I could hear, you talked about her sitting at the table and with an old school typewriter, I believe, and just hearing the click clack of the keys. And you watched your mom create. She was an entrepreneur. And it's you one thing you mentioned in the book that I really thought was interesting is that, because I think sometimes the assumption is that if you come from an entrepreneurship family, like if you have a mother or father, people in your family who are entrepreneurial minded or built a business, then you just got it. Like, it's going to be automatically passed down. But it kind of went the other way for you a little while. Like, you saw your mother build this business, and then it seems like you started positioning your life to be like, that entrepreneurship is not for me. So could you take us into that a little bit around how that changed? And then now, obviously, you have a thriving business. So clearly you figured it out. But I think that's a very interesting dynamic to dive into.
Yes, what I've learned is that your worst fear you will always face, so that I believe in God, so that God can show you that there's nothing that you can't face. So you have to be very careful about what you say you're afraid of happening, or that'll never happen to me, because you'll be forced to face it so you can see that you overcome it. But you don't overcome it unless you see it that way. Sometimes people let these things destroy them. So when it came to my mother, I said I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I said I never wanted to be a single parent, which if you read the book, you'll see there was a phase where I was. And I also believed in God. So that's a dangerous combination, because it's like, oh, you never want to do what? And so when I saw some of her struggles, I was there for the struggle. I didn't want to struggle anymore. I didn't want to go through struggles. I wanted things to be a little easier. So I saw entrepreneurship as something that would make my life harder. And so I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so I acted and danced professionally in the city, television, and film. I did a lot of fun projects. And then when I was pregnant with my son, I decided, and it's so funny, I worked at Ashley Furniture. That was my
Oh,
last, that was my last job like 16 years ago. That was the last time I worked for someone. And now Ashley Furniture is like blowing up because of this influencer. I don't know if you saw that. But so I was
I
there.
did.
So I was like, oh my God. So I tried to do that and I was excited. I was like, look at my paycheck. But then one of my mother's friends was like, yeah, but don't get too comfortable with that because you're better than that. And I was slightly offended, but I was also like, wait, I think he's right.
Hmm.
Because I was never home. My son was little. I wasn't there on the weekends. And I was like, this is not how I'm trying to live my life. So I saw entrepreneurship as an opportunity to create my own schedule and to make money on my own terms. I went to a Disney trip with my son and when he was little and when I came back, I was like I can't go back to work for someone else. People are at Disney World living their best lives whenever they want. And I have to go back and I have to ask for permission to get vacation days. I have to ask for permission to spend time with my son. And after that Disney trip, I was never right. So I was like, I have to become an entrepreneur. I'm not doing it. No.
I feel like with Disney, just so the time, getting the time off is one thing, but also like just parking at Disney has to be like you gotta have the funds to be able to play around there. There's like five theme parks in one, so
And
you kind of
I
got to be an
had the
entrepreneur to get in there.
I had the meal plan for every single day, unlimited food. I had the resort. It was the first time I really got to like see what life was like unlimited at Disney. And I was like, this is life. That's not life. So then I was like, I have to become an entrepreneur. And I started to try to figure it out.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that. We were just talking before the program because I have literally 50 questions for you. We only got 25 minutes, but I would love to interview you on um, the Bowles report at some point to really dive into the business side. But while we have you here, because these are all connected, I think what we
Yeah.
talk about in Black Speakers Network all the time is that entrepreneurship, it's all connected: writing, speaking, product creation, branding. And so I am certain that your, experience um, in the world of building a more traditional business spills over here and vice versa, the network, the skills and everything. But it's just fascinating to me that you landed in this space of franchising. And when you and I met through Crystal Berger, by the way, shout out to EBO
Yes.
and Vetify and that whole crew. Crystal's amazing. You did an incredible job speaking at the panel here in Baltimore a couple weeks ago. And so franchising isn't a topic that you hear about often spoken about. Like a lot of times we're thinking about just, traditional marketing strategies, getting revenue, gaining new customers. But franchising is a really unique concept. And, outside of like fast food and, maybe a couple other business models, I just feel like it doesn't come up as much. Like what was it that kind of got you into this space of, hey, I'm not only going to build a business, level one, then I'm going to sustain the business, and then we're going to grow it through this very unique model. And now we're going to help other people do that. Like, I would love to hear like
Yeah.
any perspective from that.
Yeah, that's a great, and this is a very important learning opportunity for entrepreneurs because in every moment of frustration that I've had, or I could have given up, or I could say, let's keep going. That's when the epiphanies happened. So I was working with a gym actually in Manhattan, and I was supplying them with stretch coaches, and I was supplying them with a stretch company. like a business for them. And it was kind of
And,
like,
and what's a stretch coach, just for people that don't know?
yeah, stretch coach is the person that stretches out your whole body for you. So it's assisted. So the person is like guiding you, pressing your body, pulling your body, and delivering the stretch. So I built this relationship with this really big gym in actually Times Square, and I was setting up all this stretching for them, and then at the last minute they pulled out, and it was devastating to me because I spent a lot of time, hours. We didn't get to the money yet. This is when I was doing things for free. I don't do that anymore. Um, so I was setting them up and then they pulled out last minute. And I remember being in the car crying, like, this is so frustrating. And I was like, I'm going to expand, I'm going to do it anyway. I've never said this before too. So this is like exclusive to your
Gotta be,
platform.
gotta be here,
And
BSN.
never, and so I was so frustrated and I started Googling, how can I expand ways to expand your business? And that's when franchising popped up. And so I called like the first three franchise consultants that I could find. And the first one that called me back, that's the one I went with. And I turned my business into a franchise right at that moment. I started the process.
Wow. So you were working with I guess a traditional gym, supplying stretch coaches. You're about to kick off. I guess, was that like a partnership or something, or were you were going to be integrated into their business model?
Yeah, it was. And it really came down to, people have great ideas and they want your talent and they want your help, but they don't want to do anything. So it always comes to who's going to actually get people to do this. And I'm like, what? Like, I thought we spoke about this.
You,
Um,
yes,
so
right.
that's another thing. Make sure you work with people who actually like to make things happen. So I kind of wasted my time there, and I was like, so I'm supposed to do all of this by myself, and then so yeah, that's kind of how it left off.
I need to go get my pillow. I have a pillow. There's a creator that I really like. He's in the hip hop genre, but he has this pillow called "That's a Bar." So like every time like something good comes
Oh,
up, it's like "That's a bar." Like what you just said was a bar. I mean,
oh,
you said multiple bars in this conversation, but absolutely, I think sometimes we just think partnerships, or we see dollar signs, and we think automatically everything's good, but you really have to know what you're getting into as an entrepreneur. And again, whole conversation outside the book, but I definitely think that this is something to dive into. How do you feel now that it's out? I don't think a lot of times I mean, I don't know if you've had a week of breather, because I've seen you, moving around the country and doing your thing. But for you, was it a cathartic experience to just have something that was in your head maybe like a couple weeks ago that's now out in the world and people are consuming it? By the way, congratulations, because you've already reached bestseller um, status. How does it feel just having your work out into the world?
yeah, so it's funny because my book coach, I at the last minute, I was like, "Do you think I should leave this part in there?" And he was like, "Yes, Kika." And I was like, and even when I was working with him to get it all out, he was like, "Oh my God." He was, because he's known me for a while. And so I'm like, going over my whole life story. He's like, "What?" So I was like, "Oh wow, I think it will hit." And so after I actually got it out, it was kind of like I was waiting for, the response. And people would connect with different pieces in the story because in the book, I bring up things that people usually keep in their head, or because of their ego and they want to look perfect, they just don't tell the world. But if you read the book and you're like, oh, something similar happened to me, now you're connected to the story. And so that happened so many times. And so I just got review after review after review. And then we had the billboard in Times Square, which really just helped like complete the whole moment. And for me, it was really about getting it out there and using it as a tool. It was never, and it still is not about book sales. It's about making impact. And now I just feel relieved because I feel like I got it all out and I did my part. Even though my work obviously is not over, but I did a large piece of my part, which is being vulnerable enough to actually deliver my true story and tell everyone. Now this goes back to like business a little bit. So I had a great run, and then I took a little break, like a few days, but then my, as you know, my Instagram page got flagged. And so I was like locked out of my main page where I just had like all this activity and hype going. I did have a backup page with most of my followers, and my team started to migrate people over there until the other one is released. And it's this whole AI situation where AI flags, sorry, but it's going to take a minute to get it back. But then I thought I owned everything because, you know, I'm all about ownership, own your brand, own this.
Facts.
And I'm like, I don't own the platform that I've been pouring into. So it was very frustrating, but then it opened me up to a whole nother mindset. Like, wow, like we really have to find ways to own our own platform. So it just helped with the journey. And so now once they release my main page, I'll be able to, you know, teach more and just really get people to understand like you really have to own everything because so it's just a never ending evolution story.
That's another bar though. That's another bar, like ownership and also, you know, vanity metrics or whatever, because you know that audience. That's why I've always been, hey, give me the email or the phone number or
Yeah.
get them into some sort of ecosystem that you actually have control over. Because, by the way, Zuckerberg, I know you're watching. I know he watches BSN BookShelf. So if you're watching, please release this woman's brand. She's just, there's nothing, there's a lot of other accounts that should be banned. Like, come on, you know. So if you're watching, just tell your engineers to get that done. But that is one thing that's critically important now, particularly, I mean, it couldn't happen on a worse week. I mean, at least you got the, I mean, I guess the week before would have been the worst week, but this is
Oh, it would have
second to the
been.
worst week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you're talking about some really, really important things right now. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, no, I was gonna say, yeah, this is the third week. But the thing that, and then the thing also is that like my businesses don't thrive off of me having to post, right? So I went through like 2 days of just like, what am I gonna do? I wasn't really posting, but then I realized my businesses are still flowing and operating. Then I was like, what if my entire business was based off of me coming online and saying something, and how important it is to actually build businesses that don't rely on you having to post every day. And I was like, what a blessing. So it was like all these, like, I'm like grounding with my daughter in the park, like all these things that I wouldn't do because sometimes we think social media is everything. And I was like, oh my God, I'm still like able to run businesses and I'm still able to talk to the people. Like, so it was just, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. What advice would you go back and give yourself? I always like to ask this question, even though it's hard, but it's like, if you could go back to like 25-year-old you, kind of knowing what you know now, would you change anything about the journey? Would you accelerate? Would you go to a different city? Like, is there anything you would do to, because I mean, it doesn't sound like you made a lot of mistakes, but I know that life is just like the Mike Tyson thing. Like
I
everybody
did.
has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely would not, I would leave the country, and not just because, not for any specific reason, but I would move out of the country and just, you know, start brand new. I think there's, now that I travel a lot, one of the best things I love to do is just to be in new environments. And I can see how sometimes you think, oh, you live in this country, you live in this state, so you're supposed to build a life here. And if I was like, I tell my son, like, travel. Like you don't need to just stay here. Like let your spirit, let your, you only live once. You have to like live, get outside, and not just outside your house, outside the country. And then I would say I didn't have a lot of financial guidance when I was in college. You know, when they give you access to credit cards, when they give you, oh, you could use your credit score. So I mean, and it's hard to kind of come up with this if you don't have the guidance at such a young age. But if I could, I would say I would align with someone who would be able to help me build my personal credit, business credit at a very early age, and just use that as leverage for the rest of my life. And a lot of the financial lessons I learned were the hard way. And then I was like, oh, okay. So now it's like I'm extremely cheap. And now I get why the people who have the most don't want to spend what they have because they've experienced not having it. And you never want to experience that again. So when my son's like $10 for two slices of pizza. I'm like, of course I can buy, millions of thousands, whatever. But why is it $10? It doesn't make sense. So it's like having that financial education at a young age and just guidance. And when I was, when I first started making so much money, if I did different things with it, it would have been a better experience, but I just didn't know. So better financial guidance, and I would be living in a different country.
I feel like the people that are going to read your book and are reading your book currently, they're going to walk away with a lot of that advice too. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of writing a book or putting out content where you get an opportunity to learn from other people's experience and, you know, everybody walking around you in life, could be a case study to be like, hey, do more of this, or some people are like, hey, do not do that. So,
Yeah.
so what is your hope for the people who are picking up your book or about to pick up your book right now? Like, what transformation, or what change or shift would you like them to walk away with once they turn the last page?
Yes, I would say a lot of the times we spend our whole lives seeking what we think we don't have because we think the things that we don't have will help mold us into what we want to be. But it's actually the complete opposite. Exactly your experience, what you've gone through, who you are is enough to build what you need to build today. So instead of using your whole life seeking what you think you don't have, because we know how that ends, you don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow and you died seeking, right? Instead of appreciating what you already have. So, in order to build a brand, and this is that story, the book is the story of how I was even able to build a brand. And I would have never been able to build what I have been able to build now if I didn't go through those experiences. So as you read the book, you'll see instead of shying away and hiding your worst moments in life, use that to propel you forward. And that's the whole point. So you have what you need today to start to get what you need and what you want tomorrow. But you just have to recognize that and stop seeking for voids and actually work with what you have. Like that's the whole point. Use what you have and build from there.
Start where you are with what you have. I love that. I think that, and also while we have you too, same question, but on the business side. So people who are watching now and they're like, franchising, what is this lady talking about? I can
Yeah, yeah,
franchise? Like, what's
yeah.
that? So what is the, how would an entrepreneur listen to this know that they should be reaching out to you to have a conversation about franchising?
Yeah, and so I wanted to open up more locations and not have to use my own money. I was sick of hiring all the staff. I was sick of being responsible and liable for everything. And I wanted to expand. So it's like, how can I expand without exhausting all my resources, my time, and my energy? And that's why franchising is the way. And actually, when I was developed with templates. I didn't know until real issues came up and they're looking at my paperwork like, who did this? So the company I worked with actually used templates to create my franchise documentation. And so I basically took all of my learning experiences and what was missing in my franchise experience. And I created the concept of black box franchising so that it would set up entrepreneurs the right way. And so when people
Nice.
say, yeah, people say, when should I franchise? When you've made money, it doesn't have to be millions. Some people just want to buy into a system that will help them generate five figures. Like that's so some people just want
Literally.
that's it. They just want to leave their job. They want to replace the income that they have. So instead of thinking that you're not ready again, move forward with what you have. And so my company, Black Box Franchising, puts together all the systems, everything, all the paperwork you need so you can comfortably give it to someone else and sell them a franchise. And what franchising means, you're just selling somebody the right to open up the same business that you have in a different city that you're not in. And that's how you expand nationally because you can only do so much where you live. It's better to have other people help you in their local cities so they can help expand the brand.
Love that. You've proven a bit, you've taken a business that you started, proven, and given another person the keys, the process, the basically the Duncan Hines back of the box, what you
Secret
need,
sauce.
the secret
Yep.
sauce. Okay. And it is that's to me is very, very cool. I know we're running toward the end of the conversation. I Is there anything that you want to leave people with, or maybe one piece from the book that you haven't had a chance to share, or just a final thought that as we are kind of going through this crazy time? I know the world is unpredictable. I agree with you about the leaving the country part and just figuring out your way. But is there any last piece of advice, last thought, or last thought that you would like people to kind of think about as we close out?
Yeah. So the first piece of advice would be to go to Amazon.com and search the stretch Kika, or you can put Kika Wise. Purchase your copy. It's not just a book about my life. It's not just a memoir. It's a playbook. It's a journal actually that you can use to get to where you need to be based on some of the core things that I've recognized, some of the core values that I feel you have to have in order to develop your own brand. So go there, do that, and leave a review, a good one, please. Um, and so then also, I know so many people getting laid off, so many people fired. I remember I'm telling everyone I'm an entrepreneur years ago, 15 years ago. And people are like laughing, joking, like, oh, waiting for me to fail because they're like, why would you be an entrepreneur? And now everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Now I'm looking around like,
Amazing.
wait, I thought you were a nurse. I thought you were a doctor. Now you have a small business feeding rabbits. Like, what are you doing? Because people are starting to understand that there's a limit to working for other people. And it's not bad to work for other people, it's cool. But some people need more. And if you get laid off, you lose your job, you lose your income. What do you have? So I was fortunate enough to start building in my early 20s. And so now I'm just like, even if I lost everything today, I'd be able to build something from scratch and generate income because that's the muscle I've built. So I would tell people to look at yourself as a brand. Stop consuming everyone else's brand so much, just going to the mall, shopping, buying all these things. But how are you investing into yourself? How are you creating your own brand? Because it's possible. So if you read the book, it'll teach you how to create your brand, how to use your losses, your obstacles, and to create a brand for yourself. Because let me tell you, I said this last year. I was like, this, I was like, 2025 is the last year to play games, and people didn't
For real.
listen. And now I see people in 2026, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because people don't understand like what they'll really have to face. So just do your research, um learn from other people who did it, but definitely put your fate and your future in your own hands. Because if you don't, and you get let go by your job or whoever's holding you, then how are you going to feed yourself?
Listen, I don't know if it's possible for y'all to just for I've met you in person, Kika, so I can see this, but like it feels like you're holding people's hands as you're telling them this. Like, listen, this is a come to like Jesus moment a little bit.
Jesus,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Kika, thank you so much. You again, I would love to get you back for a part two. I know you're on this book tour. We got a lot to cover. Thank you for sharing a piece of your journey. Thank you for putting your work out into the world, sharing very vulnerable pieces of your life and your experience. That's going to help so many people. It's already started to help me because you are right. Like we are same thing. Like I started about 20 years ago flexing, entrepreneurship muscle. And I don't think the business is the main thing. Businesses can change, but the person that you have to become, learning these skills and getting used to um creating value outside of a traditional W-2 structure, that is America's already the reason why everybody wants to sell here. We are the largest consumers on the planet. But now I feel like we are going to need to make that shift to be producers if you want to, now that the illusion of the white picket fence and the 401k and pensions are like all the stuff is is shifting up so that if you're going to stay competitive in this space, probably a portfolio career, multiple skills, like something, even if it's not full blown entrepreneurship, is going to have to happen. And so, thank you for giving people the a piece of the blueprint to be able to start that journey.
Can I
And
say one more thing? I forgot.
absolutely, absolutely,
This I'm like shouting out Amazon. Can you, after all I just said, please visit kikawise.com. Okay? Kikawise.com. I have a newsletter, I have a community, so you'll never lose track of anything that I'm doing. Kikawise.com. I had to drop that.
absolutely. Please buy. No, this is important actually for BSN Bookshelf. Buy directly from the offer whenever possible for multiple reasons. But all of those links that we talked about are going to be included in the comment here. So make sure that we have it all ready for you. And again, the idea here is to get started. And there is no, just like there's, you could start college at any time, finish at any time. The idea is to be taking action that you know is going to get you further closer to your goal. But if you never start, you never finish. So, Kika, thank you so much. And thank you for being on BSN Bookshelf.
Thank you so much.